Hey, friends. Thank you so much for tuning in. You are here for the CUT Collective's weekly sermon rewind. This series is brought to you on behalf of Christ Universal Temple's online ministry. Y'all know I'm elated to be here. I'm Reverend Sheree Thompson. I am the director of the collective, and I'm on a mission to build community with all of us connecting to CUT online. So we're doing these rewinds every week. I basically take the lesson sermon, pick out some fun parts of it, and discuss it with whoever gave the lesson. And this week, I'm bringing somebody new to this version of the rewind. And it's going to be really great. So we're in a sermon series called Unleash Your Inner Powers, the activity of divine authority. And that is the title of the sermon. So we're working with the gift of power. So just a reminder, we're working with the 12 spiritual gifts. These are your gifts. And we're unwrapping each and every one of them over the course of the summer during this series. So without further ado, I want to let you know who is in the hot seat today for the rewind. I have Gavin Jackson, who is the COO of Christ Universal Temple. He is, and this is his self-proclaimed definition, right? The descendant of Reverend Dr. Johnny Coleman. See, a descendant of these teachings. He grew up in this message. He's a student of the Reverend Dr. Derek B. Wells, an entrepreneur and author, and my friend. So come on into the place. Come on into the scene.
Hey, hey.
Hey, how are you?
Reverend Ree.
Listen, I'm just going to state for the record, because I like to state things for the record, that Gavin and I have recorded one of these before, right? Because he preaches every now and then, and the first one wasn't great. Like, what we said was great, but it just didn't look great. You know what I mean? So we put it on hold and plan to reshoot that. And so here, a year later, we're finally back. I should have threw some of those clips in here. So this is really cool. So just, I know you've seen these before, but just so you know how we're moving with the ride, that we're going to go over some clips. So just so you know, collective, you actually can shape and form these conversations. All you got to do is let me know what part of a sermon that really hit you. You can do that by letting me know in the Facebook group. Are you in our Facebook group? Y'all should be in the Facebook group. It's real dope. Yeah, I see that you're in the Facebook group, and it's important that you join this community because we're creating content especially for the collective. So I want to make sure that you're in at the beginning. All right. So with that, I want to, I'll pray us in real quick, but then I really have to deal with what I feel like is the most powerful point in the entire, I'm gonna knock it out at the top. I'm not gonna save that for the end. Okay. So we're gonna dive right in as soon as we start.
Okay.
That's right.
Straight to dessert.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. So just giving thanks and praise for this space and just charging it with all of the power, all of the wisdom, all of the love that resides within each and every one. That's that powerful presence that we call God. We just let that presence take over this conversation, and we open ourselves up for a dynamic exchange that's filled with information that will rock the souls of each and every person who hears our words. Thank you, God, for this. I trust it. In the name and nature of the Christ, I pray, and I let it be so, and so it is.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. All right, so dessert first.
Right.
So I discovered something in this lesson, that there is such a thing, or there was such a thing, as the coming out for Christ pageant. And I feel like we needed to know more about the coming out for Christ pageant. Tell me the criteria for it, because you were a winner. I need to know. Was there a bathing suit competition? Like, tell me about the coming out for Christ.
So this is historical Christ Universal Temple, like putting it in perspective. Church south side of Chicago, doing very creative ways to fundraise, teaching a metaphysical message in the 60s, 70s, early 80s. So in the late 70s, they really started to have these like a debutante ball, or I don't know what the male version of a debutante ball is, but that's really what it was.
Okay.
And so various categories, you would come out and there would be dancing, there would be outfits, there would be, like a little, saying or whatever. And so I know there's some people in our Chicago campus but I'm like, where did this guy Gavin come from? Like, I think I've maybe seen him around. So I just wanted to remind people, like when I was little, I was in a lot of those fundraisers. So the 1981, I may have been in second grade, third grade. So I was just reminding everybody, like I was involved in the fundraising of this church since before I even knew what was what.
Listen, so here's the thing. I want to put a charge out there in the atmosphere. If anybody has video or somebody's dad had had a VHS cam on this show, somebody's dad had it, I'm gonna need that video.
I'll send you a picture.
Very, very cool. That is awesome. I'm so sorry for your loss in 1983. I'm so sorry that
I was runner up. That
tough. You couldn't stay number one. That you couldn't hold on to that number one slot.
Not for somebody else.
So no, I thought that tickled me so much. I needed to see a picture. But so this is the rhythm I got. I have I'm working with your sermon, which was really amazing on power. And one of the ways that you used one of my favorite New Thought churchy words, quickening is one of my favorites. Some words just tickle me. And so quickening is one of those because in a lot of the literature we read, we see that word quickening. What does that mean? Right. And so I'm gonna just dive right into this clip, and then we can chat. If you have questions, know that you can ask the question in the chat. We'll fold it into the conversation because again, this is all about the community. All right, so let's do clip one.
Though you all are spiritual students, you've been to classes, you've read scriptures.
Oh, this is not the one.
Sometimes a traumatic failure can make you forget who you are.
All right, so I'm gonna pause that real quick because that's not the clip I wanted to pull.
Okay.
Because that one is about my favorite movie. So right, first you talked about my favorite movie, then you talked about my favorite churchy word. And so just for context, you set up the movie Jason Bourne and the first one, Bourne Identity. Yep. And so tell me a little bit about why you married this concept together, the spiritual, this idea of spiritual power and the Jason Bourne movie.
Well, because I really think it's important to kind of give ourselves grace when we come up against, tough times and, you've been studying, all the books, the words, and you're like, why are things not working? And sometimes we have to just be like, wait a minute. I might be forgetting some of my skills. I might be forgetting who I am. I might be forgetting my training, my identity. And so I use the movie Bourne Identity because he had all of this really deep training. He knew how to do everything he was supposed to do. He knew how to be a spy. He knew how to battle. He knew how to do his job. But he had an experience that was so tough that it created amnesia. And I do believe that we can have spiritual amnesia. That in the thick of the battle or whatever seems to be a battle, we almost forget everything we know. We forget, wait a minute, I'm born in the image and likeness of God. Wait a minute, I have access to all of the knowledge and wisdom that God has, and so on and so forth. So I just wanted to put it in that context because we're a great spiritual community. And we're like, wait a minute, I said the prayer of protection and somebody still tried to carjack me. Right. What's happening? Right. Yeah. Just to be practical about it. And you have to truly come back to yourself and remember all of your skills.
Yeah, it is. It's really, I think between that and the Matrix, the moment when Jason Bourne, who doesn't know who he is, first discovers one of his gifts, right? He sees that he acts instinctively. Reminds me of when, in the Matrix, when they got the downloads of things, like it's just like it's in you just like that just instant like remembrance. I love it. All right. So I'm going to play this clip, and this is talking about spiritual amnesia.
Though you all are spiritual students, you've been to classes, you've read scriptures, sometimes a traumatic failure can make you forget who you are for just a short period of time. Sometimes you can have a mission And in your mind, it's going to go this way. It's going to go A, B, C, D. And it goes D, F, Y, J. It goes all the way sideways. And it is so traumatic. It is so painful that you forget your spiritual identity, that you have spiritual amnesia and have to come back to yourself.
So I definitely pulled this one because you put it in the context of a major traumatic event.
Mm-hmm.
But I think a major traumatic event could be anything. Like it could be somebody cutting you off. How quickly can we forget?
Stubbing your toe can be a major traumatic event in the course of a day.
Yes.
That can send you off of who your real identity is.
So a lesson that Reverend Sheila taught when we were in seminary, Reverend Sheila McKeithen, and she said that she basically had been working and it got dark and she got up and just forgot that there was something in the way and fell and chipped her tooth. And she said the first thing that she, so there's blood and everything, but she was just like, nothing, this didn't happen. Like everything is okay. I'm whole, perfect, and complete. And within 24 hours, everything had worked out. She had, like all these little pieces came together where if you saw her, you would know that ever happened.
Right.
But
she came back to herself quickly.
She came back real quick, like immediately, right? And so there's that. But then there's also where you think I'm never going to be able to walk straight again. I'm never, it's like where you completely forget who you are in the moment, let alone when something is hitting your life, when you got life issues that are presenting themselves.
And I think it's really important, and each individual's triggers are different, but finding what is your method of coming back to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's weeks, months, years. Sometimes you need it immediately, like Reverend McKeithen did. I had a business experience, which actually I text you on to like prayer partner me through this, where one of my businesses looked like it was going to be shut down in the middle of an event. So this is a banquet hall, and it looked like the authorities were going to shut it down while the customers were in there. And I could not get back to myself.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the moment, just everything that's going on and the commotion and the questions, I needed an immediate shift and I couldn't get it. It was like yanking a lawnmower and it just wasn't starting. And I'm yanking and I'm yanking and I'm yanking. But at the same time, I was still trying to pray. I was still saying affirmations. And it's interesting. One of the individuals there that was there to shut down the business, he used a phrase that actually helped trigger me, where he said, well, no, like this edict to close the business comes from the highest authority. And he used that phrase, highest authority. And that like slapped me like, wait a minute.
Right.
These people think they're the highest authority. No, there's only one authority. Let me tap into that. And in that moment, I was able to do what Dr. Sheila did, which was just like, nope, this is not happening.
Mm-hmm.
I declare this is going to be in order. This event is going to work, so on and so forth. But every situation is so different.
Yeah.
And everybody's method is different. So for everybody in the collective, find your method. If it's a 2-word affirmation, if it's a song you need to sing, if it's a walk around the block, if it's hitting the gym, if it's getting your hair done, whatever your method is to help you get back to who you are, no way to keep it in your pocket.
Absolutely. And I think that you have, like, I know I have different methods for different things. I've shared before that, in my quest to remember that I am life, right? I am the energy of God in motion. And so that means I move, right? And when I get up in the morning and I commit to getting activity in the morning, because it just cuts the excuses. But the one big excuse in the morning is I don't want to get up. All right. I don't want to. I mean, it's like I can think of every reason that I should sleep some more. And what I do, my shortcut is 2 feet. Get on 2 feet. Like you can't make this decision. 2 things. You can't make the decision unless you're on 2 feet, but you also can't make the decision in the morning.
Got it.
If you're not going to work out, you have to decide that the night before. You can't decide it in the morning. Right. So I have my ways to make sure that I can remember who I am, these little hacks. And so what I can appreciate about this is that you have to know about this spiritual power.
Yes.
And so in the sermon, you put this slide up that spiritual power is omnipresent. It is released in our body by spiritualizing our consciousness. It surges as we erase negative thoughts from consciousness and become one with God mind.
Yes.
Spiritual power is omnipresent.
And that's
So-
a Charles Fillmore definition. That phrase that you're reading there.
Mhm.
That's one of his descriptions in the Revealing Word. And it's really breaking it down. It's like, number one, it's already here.
Right.
It's already in you. It's around you. It's through you. It's in everything you do. But, how helpful is that if you can't access it? And so I love how Fillmore is like, no, here's how you access it. Very practical. It's released by you raising your thinking, by spiritualizing your consciousness, by seeing things through, as Reverend Roger Norton is one of my favorite teachers. He always says, spiritualize your eyes. Like, look at things as God looks at things. Find the good in the situation. That's how you spiritualize your consciousness. And from there, you start to get access to what is already yours. And then if you really need that surge, if you need to supercharge it, you need to really climb a big mountain. Now you've got some erasing to do.
Right.
Now you've got to, renounce some things and get rid of some things, because that's the big push. That's the big power. So that's why I use this. It's just so very practical. Like, it's there, but what good does that do if you don't know how to access it?
Yeah. But I think that I love definitions of things. I love when you can take something and break it down, because that is everywhere present. That may be where you need to stop, because you're waiting on somebody to come and rescue you. You're right. And so to understand that power is everywhere present, including right where you are in the midst of whatever you're going through, that may be enough.
And it allows you to not miss out.
Yes.
Like, expectation of the form of blessing will have you miss out when it comes in a form that you're not familiar with or weren't expecting, or, I thought that was coming from this way, from this doctor, from this job, whatever. The Omni opens up your eyes to see, like, no, this blessing can come from literally an infinite amount of ways, so that you don't miss it.
Yes. All right. So I have a kabillion clips. Let me get to the next one. So this next one is very, I always pull too many. So this next one, though, I thought was dope. So this is, as we're talking about this shift that you are spiritualizing your consciousness, being able to distinguish between your personality and your spirituality, this persona we put on and the spiritual essence of who you are, is where this next clip centers. I'm going to play it now.
But he says that a quickening from on high must precede the realization of your own dominion and authority, spiritually speaking. A spiritual quickening, and a quickening is just a fancy word for makes come alive in yourself. It permeates every cell in your body. A quickening is an idea that takes over your being. It's beyond just thinking. It's beyond just belief. It is knowing that you know that you know. That quickening is what precedes you walking in the spiritual authority that you already have.
So there's my favorite churchy word. That's the clip with it in there. That's the clip. The quickening. And so that is what when we're talking about in that moment of they're getting ready to shut down my venue. The quickening is what we want, because if the power is always there, what activates it in your experience, right?
Right. But it's like you have to become small so that God can become big in you. Like, just think of yourself as a cup, as a vessel. And for the most part, it's full of all this race consciousness. It's full of what you see with your physical eyes. It's full of what you feel with your body. It's full of what's going on around, what you see on the news. And it's like you have to pour that out and pour the truth in yourself so much that nothing else can exist in that vessel, at least for that moment.
Yeah.
And then it's like it's at a cellular level. It is everything you touch. It's how ministers lay hands on people. It's how miracles happen. It is everything about you knows this. Not just your mind, not just your thinking, down to your fingernails knows the truth, then things start to move.
Yeah.
And it's a practice. I don't want to just talk it like, oh, this is so easy, the quickening. No, it is a practice of flooding out all that intellectual and everything you're seeing with your eyes and replacing it with the truth real time.
Mm-hmm.
It's a practice.
But even and I love practice. I love that word, because I think that we forget about that when it comes to spirituality, that anything you master must be practiced.
Yes.
And, it's not like when you see someone in a, big sporting at the NBA finals, they're getting ready to make the final shot. This isn't their first time shooting the ball from that space and under this kind of duress, right? This is something they have been practicing. And so why we come together, why do I go to class on spirituality, right? It's because you have to practice, and you need to be in a space where there's no pressure on the line, right? You get to learn in a state of peace, and then you talk about what you do with what you learn later. And I'm not gonna step on that clip, but I want to make sure that the quickening, because it's my favorite word, because of the quickening is an idea that you open your mind to. That sometimes when things aren't clicking together, you may need to become receptive to that quickening. Like, let me not move forward because I don't know it through and through. I don't feel it through and through. Right. And not rush into things because there is no spirit right now moving.
Yeah. So sit still. Hold on.
Yeah.
Wait till you get your instructions. Sometimes that GPS in your car takes a few minutes to load, takes a few seconds to load. You don't just take off.
Exactly.
You're like, all right, I'm going to wait till the calculation comes. All right, the route is ready.
Mm-hmm.
Then you go.
Wow.
It's the same thing in prayer. It's like, what are you taking off for? It's loading. It's loading. Boom.
Yeah.
Now I know, I have no doubt I'm supposed to go in this direction. I'm supposed to say these words. I'm supposed to call this person. You know, and you have no doubt in you. That is the quickening of the truth in you.
I got another clip, but before that, I just wanted to throw out what Deborah said. So this is the second time today this message was presented to me. First, in my tech class, it was presented as part of helping and solving difficult situation. Put a reboot plan in action. Then to hear it again on another platform is awesome. Yes, yes, yes. I like when my messages come in all kind of directions. It's like, okay, got it.
I love that reboot plan.
Yeah, a reboot plan. Yes, yes, yes. So here's a clip about identity. Let me play this.
We're getting a glimpse of our own divine identity. Don't get tricked into thinking you are Clark Kent when you are really Superman. Superman was just pretending to be a mild-mannered reporter. But when the you-know-what hit the fan, Superman put on his cape and flew. She is saying, put on your spiritual cape. Raise your consciousness and fly. Don't try to go into these situations just using your intellect. Don't try to go into these situations just using what you know from experience. Use the only power that exists. Use the only presence that exists and drape yourself in it. Cover yourself in it. Charge yourself up through it before you even get there.
So we have putting on the cloak. Putting on right before the cloak was the armor, right? Putting on this armor. And the idea of preparing. So tell me how you prepare before you go into an intentional experience, something that's when you say that your money's on the line.
Money's on the line. I really do think so identity is a funny thing because in your everyday life, you are always being identified, just corporally by how you look. Are you tall? Are you short? What is your race? How do you identify? What does your hair look like? Do you have a beard? Not gray beard. It's, worldly identity bombards you if you leave your room every single day.
Yeah.
Spiritual identity has to be a regular reminder. You have to tell yourself and remind yourself, Yes, I'm Gavin Jackson, a black man from the south side of Chicago. But before any of that, I am a divine being. You know, I am operating on divine law. I am made in the image and likeness of God. The vast majority of my experiences are not shouting that to me. So I have to shout it to myself, and with intention. The author that we were studying, Martella Whitsett, from the, what is it, the audacity of
Divine audacity.
the divine audacity, she talked about it intentionally as going on hospital visits and visiting people that needed her pastoral care.
Mm-hmm.
She was not going to walk in there in her human intellect. She was going to do what she needed to do, prayer, meditation, to put on that cloak, that spiritual identity. Like you say, practice small.
Mm-hmm.
Practice small. Like, pray before you order the chicken at Popeyes. That's small. I'm gonna put on my spiritual identity before I pull in this drive-through line.
Yeah.
Because there's not a lot of weight on it.
Yeah.
Put on my spiritual identity and pray before I decide what to wear this morning. When I choose what airline to fly. Small. So that when it really comes, it's just a practice. Before I walk in this meeting, before I do something, that's important to me, let me remind myself who I am.
Mm-hmm.
So this spiritual amnesia doesn't have me unconscious in a situation where I need to be super conscious.
And the reality too is that your practice begins to work. Like I talk about a lot about one of my favorite ways to describe what you've been given, like what you've taken in is your embedded theology, your embedded belief system.
Mm-hmm.
And so you may have been embedded with this idea that as a black man, in Chicago, that there's a certain limit to how you can express.
Right.
And that may be embedded in you from people around you, people trying to love you, just watching news, watching the environment, right? All these impressions are embedded. So what we do here is that we talk about the deliberate theology, the deliberate thinking, right? How do I deliberately create my life? I don't want my life just happening to me, and,
Right.
and no one will define me. I am deliberate about it. And so that takes the practice, that takes time, but it will become embedded.
Yes. That you have to. Have you ever seen like somebody like on the Whitewater Rapids? Like they're paddling like crazy. Like the waters are going to do what the waters are going to do, and the rocks are going to do what the rocks are going to do. But you never hear them just like, I'll just put this oar up and just let the water happen to me, flip me upside down. They are actively doing their part to navigate the situation. That's how that spiritual cloak works. It's like, no, I'm going to actively do my part, no matter what the waters are doing around me. I'm going to make sure I do my work. But our work is spiritual. It's mental. It is checking what we think and checking what we feel.
Mm-hmm. And I want you to peep when you see someone who has embedded themselves that they're Superman, that they know who they are, and because you need to be able to bear witness to it. So you're like, oh, I can do that too. Like I can walk in a room. I remember walking into an elevator at a POT, and there's a minister who's actually out of LA, Dr. Charles Brown.
Mm-hmm.
I swear he walked into the elevator and a cloud of peace just dropped into the space.
Yep.
Whatever I was rushing to, whatever was happening, it was just like weight had come off my shoulders. He embodied peace that was embedded in him, so much so that it went before him. Like just it was a powerful experience, and that let me know that I could have that same experience, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so let me go. You talked about okay, now I'm gonna play this clip. I'm gonna play them all. You know what? I'm just doing it. You should have been here. Here you go. I'm gonna play this one.
You don't want to walk in spiritually naked, and next thing you know, you're catching amnesia of your own spiritual gifts. You're forgetting who you are. You're ready to smack an adult because you have lost your spirituality. Don't let them push you. You walk in the room and you light up the room. You walk in the room and you charge the room with your consciousness. You don't let the room bring you down. You bring God's peace into the room. You bring divine order into the space. You bring that light within you everywhere you go. Let God through you affect the space more than the space can affect you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That will transform everything.
Yes.
It will transform everything. I remember working at a company that everybody got hostile. Like it literally turned into a hostile environment. And people love me. I don't know if you know that about me, but people love me. But it wasn't love happening.
Right.
And so I would sit in my car and I would just be so upset. Like I should be able to go in here and quit this. Like I don't want to be, but I needed the buddy. I needed the buddy. I wasn't ready to let go of that income. But what I started to do was sit in my car and pray and just send that spirit before me that I would bless the people that I was going to encounter. I would declare peace in every aspect of their lives. I would just pray and I would go in there and I'm going to be loved no matter what. Right. There's not going to be a situation where somebody says something and I forget myself. I'm going to be loved in the midst of it all. And that transformed that, not just my situation, but the entire environment around me, because that's the power of love. That's the power of it. And that is bringing the light.
You can absolutely. I did it once in a business negotiation, which I told you about, where, and I was in a room and as my sister was my business partner, and we were negotiating with somebody, and they were at the end of the negotiation. We were actually short on the money that they wanted. They wanted a certain amount. We're like, we're going to close this deal. He's going to accept this deal. We'll come up with the rest of the money later. But it was a long drive to get there. I'm driving from my house. It's maybe a 50-mile drive, so not super long, but long. And so I have time to actually charge myself up. I called 3 prayer partners on the way up there. I turned on music. I actually played God Is, which is not a super long song, but 7 minutes. Played a couple other songs. There's a song called All the Way by Martin Woods, who's one of the directors of our music department. And I had just charged myself up so much that by the time I walked in the meeting, I barely remember the meeting. As my sister recounts it to me, she says, I don't even know what you were saying. The guy at the end of the meeting, all I remember him saying is, and he had already signed it. I didn't realize he had signed it and said, yes, we're good to go. And he turned to me and Sheree said, what? Sheree's my sister. He said, what just happened? But I walked in quickened by the idea that the deal was done.
Yeah.
And there was nothing I could see, nothing I could hear, nothing at all that was going to undo that. I had already received my yes. But I brought the yes with me into the room so that other people, they had to agree with my yes, whether they understood why or not.
Yeah.
That is the power of that. But like I said, it's a practice. Get the help you need to do it. Call the prayer partners you need to get there. Listen to the music, watch the movie, read the scripture, find your way. But when you show up, God shows up.
Yeah. I remember in one of my quickening experiences, this woman said, I don't know why I'm helping you. Like,
Right.
It wasn't her nature to be helpful this way. I don't know why I'm helping you. It's like, I said, I do. I know why. All right. So, one of the many things that you do, and not enough of, is that, I don't know if you guys know this, Gavin's a writer. He is an author of a book called Mind and Grind, A Thinker's Guide to Practical Christianity. You can find it, at a great price. It's on sale. I don't know if you knew that. It's on sale on Amazon. And so this book, you work with one of Jesus's miracles of feeding the 5,000, and you talk about it. So I'm pulling this up because even in the sermon, you're like, I can't really get into it. And the book really goes into breaking down that lesson. And I love the way that you take scripture and find the formula in it that we can, use and make it practical in our lives. So I wanted to share that with everybody. Go ahead and get Mind Plus Grind if you haven't picked it up already, or get it as a gift.
Thank you.
Get it as a gift. Great job. I can't wait to see the next book.
Oh, okay. I hear you. Nice. Way to go.
I can't wait for the sequel. All right. So, but with that, you talked about the feeding of the 5,000 and specifically focusing on the part where Jesus tells everybody to be quiet, right? And so I believe you explained this, but we'll talk about it a little bit more after the clip. 1 second.
Before you even get to the miracle state, you have to quiet the crowd in your mind. You have to quiet the things that are yelling at you, saying you don't have enough. You have to quiet the things that are trying to convince you this is a problem, this is an emergency, it's not working out. Sit down and shut up. I've got work to do. And you have to tell your thoughts that sometimes. Your thoughts that are not agreeing with the miracle are the 5,000 clamorous people yelling, shumping, shouting. They want the attention. They want your mind on them. The problems want you to be thinking about the problem. The haters want you to think about the haters. The bills want you to think about the bills. They're loud. The answers are coming from a very small voice. And so the miracle comes after Jesus' instruction, tell these 5,000 to sit down.
So this was one of the things I did not like when I started to learn about how God moves, right? I didn't like the idea of the still small voice. And the thing I asked my teacher was, how do I know which one is God, right? And so she says, how many voices are speaking inside your head? Like, I think you started with the wrong question, right? So how do you perceive the Holy Spirit? Like, how do you perceive the still small voice?
So for me, and I do have a lot of voices in my head because I think I'm so smart. Like, I really do. Like, I'm like, oh man, I went to this school and I studied this and I've worked for these companies. And so my intellect will try to outthink the situation. I'll try to come up with a strategy, but I can feel it. I can almost feel it in my heart rate. Mm-hmm. Like, I can almost feel it in my breathing when the answer is the answer. When it's a spiritual answer, it's almost, my intellect is me trying to convince myself. I'm making an argument. My spiritual answer just is. Mm-hmm. There's no argument to make. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be logical. You don't have to know the next step, but you feel it. There's just a calmness. There's a warmness. Like I said, the breathing changes. I feel like my face changes. The way I smile changes when I know the answer, and that's God's answer. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying this like I'm all high and mighty, because my intellect will still try to talk me out of the answer that I know is God's answer, but I wait too long to act on the answer. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I will talk myself out of my own miracle. That's why I really believe when in that scripture, when Jesus gives that instruction, the people to be fed are the problem. The people to be fed, that's the goal. That's what we're trying to get done. There's a gap between dealing with them and what we see at hand. Mm-hmm. And so he's almost flipping the formula. The voice isn't quiet. The problem is loud. Yeah. So now the voice is relatively still and soft. Mm-hmm. But if you can quiet the doubt, quiet the fear, quiet the anxiety, quiet what society is saying, for just a moment, that voice rises up and things start to move. Yeah. I work with this. I ask this question a lot of people because I think that we can think that God is whispering, right? That that intuition whispers, but that's not the essence of it, right? No. Because it also doesn't have to be a voice. Right. Like, it's like you said, it's a feeling, it's a conviction. So I do challenge you to begin to become aware of yourself, right? When you are working with anything that you're trying to do and you pray about it, what does it feel like to get an answer? What does it feel like to know that your intuition has guided you in a direction, that the wisdom of God is moving right now and giving you information? You have to
know what that's like. You'll hear people talk about some big calamity. I remember a woman sharing that she was on a freeway and some pipe fell off of a truck, and God had her move to the right, to the right side. It was the pole was coming to the right though, but something happened and it ended up going to the left. And she talked about like God directed me and told me right. And I said, that's amazing, but I don't want an emergency to be the only way that I can catch that direction. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But that some of us we have God as, break this in case of emergency. But
Right.
it is, but we don't, you can practice your way to a conversation that's fluid, that's always happening. And it doesn't have to be a calamity. It doesn't have to be emergent. It can be a part of your flow.
Right.
And
even when scripture describes that still small voice, it is relative to earthquakes.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
The prophet is looking here and there's earthquakes. So it's small relative to an earthquake. It's quiet relative to winds and rocks shattering. It's not like it's saying it's relative to, like, I don't know what an earthquake sounds like. You're in California, California, but I'm imagining
they have a
really
sound.
bad earthquake and volcanoes and hurricanes are extreme. So it's saying relative to the extreme, it's conversational.
Yeah.
It's right here. It's not the fire engine with the alarm going down the street. It's right here in front of you.
So there's a clip that I'm going to play now, because it really is the heart of what's the heart of theology, right? How do you know what you know? Right. And so one of the things that I'm grateful for in this teaching is that we talk about working it, right? That you're putting these principles to work. This really a theory until you work it. Right. It could be my truth,
mm-hmm.
but it is a theory to you until you demonstrate it. So as a metaphysician, right, that is one of the ideas, is that I'm taking these ideas and I'm working them in my mind. Like that's what I have control over. That's where my power is. And what these lessons are teaching us, where Gavin is focusing in on this lesson from Sunday, is about concentrating your power. Like, this is at the moment where, the deal is on the table there, you concentrated solely on the result that you wanted to see. Right.
Right.
And some of us concentrate on the problem. Like you said, it's like, I'm focused on the crowd. I'm focused on the appearance.
Right.
So this is where you can go grab your mind back and say that I can control what I concentrate on. And you have the ability to, we haven't talked about imagination yet, I don't think, but you can imagine whatever you want.
Right.
There's no limit to your imagination.
But that's the dominion and authority.
Yeah.
We can control what we think at any given moment.
Yep. I was just talking to a friend who was saying that, he took a gig for they offered him an extraordinary amount of money, and he countered with even more than that. And when he met with them, when he was there, it's like, we would have given you more. Like, even it's like imagine, right?
Right.
How vast is your imagination? How much are you willing to risk? No, before you stretch yourself to the limit, right? Like, what does that limit look like? That's a horrible feeling. I would have given you more.
Right. But there's the lesson in it.
Yes.
That's we associate Philip with this power, with this spiritual dominion and authority. But Philip is always pulling up a test.
Mm-hmm.
So he's always pulling up a lesson. So your friend just got just a lesson there.
Absolutely.
Learn more about your power.
Yes. And know your worth. Know your worth. All right. So this is what to do. Like, how do you know what you know? I think that this really helps us to understand that more.
It is just to make sure you understand that you are a child of God, made in the image and after the likeness of God. It is to make sure that you understand that the dominion and authority that rest in you belongs to you by divine birthright. You don't have to be ashamed of it. You don't have to hide it. Work with it whenever you want, and you will pass that test. You will be victorious. You will make it through. Just make sure that you point back to God and say, God did this through me. Don't get boastful like, look what I did. The test is there for you to glorify the higher consciousness within yourself.
So we could do a whole hour on the test is there to help you glorify the higher consciousness within yourself. Testing is one of those things that can bring up old embedded theologies, right?
Yes.
That there's this negative thing. God is trying to test you, right? I'm tempted. God is tempting me, to do wrong. And that's not what is being shared here at all. But you said that the test is about proving it to ourselves, right?
That's it. Yeah. I'm not saying like, oh my goodness, you have to go through tough times. No, you can have perfectly easy life and smile every day. If something comes up as a challenge, I really think of it, and I gave the analogy like of a math problem where I had this teacher and he was always like, yeah, you got the answer, but show your work. And it was really just like, let me make sure you truly understand this mathematical principle so that you can use it not just on this level. If it's three number multiplication, you can use it on 7 number multiplication.
Right.
You can use it in calculus, but get this understanding so that you can get those even bigger offers that your friend was sitting right there from them, because you passed the test, but it's really, you worked through the understanding. Scripture is saying, Jesus asked Philip, like, so how are we going to do this? And then the next line is, Jesus already knew. He already had the answer how he was going to do it. He was just asking him really to elevate his consciousness.
Right.
And Philip, at first he fumbled it. He was like, oh, well, if we just had this money, we could buy this. And then he had to show him.
It is a perfect teacher, right? Like the idea that the question always cracks open your atmosphere. And I want to encourage you that if there is a space where you don't know what to do, find the question that you need to ask, because sometimes it's like, I hadn't even thought of I can't get an answer because I haven't articulated a true question. There's no demand. There's no demand for supply. It's vague. And so a good question will help you to get there. So I love that demonstration as well. But
it's like a spiritual Socratic method.
Yeah.
Like you're going to get the answer by working through more questions.
Yep. This is one of the ways that we get to how do we know. You can get through experience, and you can keep bumping your head up against the same obstacles and finally like, oh, I can do something different. Right. You can be quiet and you can ask the question and get that answer in your soul. You can get that answer in the moment. You can get that answer down the line. It just depends on your availability for it, your receptivity to it.
That's it.
But there's this other part, right? Because I know we're getting to the bottom of our time, and I have 2 more clips. I have 2 more clips. All right.
Okay.
So this clip is I'm just gonna play it.
We're going to talk about spiritual power surges. When you are able to eliminate negative thinking, spiritual power can surge through you in a way that burns up things that don't belong in your life, world, and affairs. Power surge is burning up those situations that don't belong. Power surge is burning up that diagnosis. Power surge is burning up those bills. Power surge through you is moving anything out of the way that appears to be an obstacle. It can't not stand in front of the power of God, but you have to work with that power and know that that is the only power.
So the one power idea is, I think, it's a single lie. It's concentration. It's everything. That's the whole thing.
That's it.
That's the whole lesson, is to get that I am invested in this idea that there is something other than this working out perfectly for me.
Yep.
And what I'm doing is getting my whole mind behind the good prevailing, the good becoming apparent, the good that is in potential becoming an experience.
Yes. Everything else is an illusion.
Everything else
is transitory. Everything else is changing. It's a train moving by. And once we get that understanding,
Mhm.
then you are able to, number one, just in a very practical sense, calm your mind enough to get to the miracle, because every miracle just begins with an idea.
Yeah.
To get to the idea that is your step, that is your miracle. But once you start believing in other things having the ultimate power, that is against the 10 Commandments. Don't put any other gods before me. Don't worship this problem like it has power. Don't you elevate this situation above God as if it has the final say.
Yeah.
That's against the old law and the new law. Know that there is only one power and everything else starts to dissolve. That's the practice.
I focus on power with the definition of mastery, authority, and dominion, right? And so I say you have mad power. You got mastery, authority, and dominion over everything going on in your mind, which means you have mastery, authority, and dominion over everything going on in your experience. And that's heavy. That's a heavy concept. I can maybe get to that. I got stuff I can control what's going on in my mind. I may not be great at it, and I may not be perfect at it, but I can grab control of it. I remember when I was fixated on a problem, like literally mesmerized by it. I could only think about it. No matter what I did, it was like, yeah. I mean, it's hypnotizing. It's like, oh my gosh, this feels so big. And because it was a big deal to me, I felt like I needed to think about it a lot.
Right.
And it's kind of like the idea. I usually use that example around love, because it's like, if I worry about you, that's showing you how much I love you. But in essence, that's not necessary to demonstrate love, right? Just like my obsession with the problem is not necessary for the solution. And so I can point all of my thinking, I can point all of my attention on the potential of good that can prevail. Let me just be open for that. And so I appreciated the idea of that power surge, that this is becoming a vessel that the surge can come through, a conduit for it, and that we have the power to do that.
But it is, like Fillmore said, it surges when you're able to eliminate the negative thinking to the extent that you can eliminate the negative thinking. The power that's already in you can surge forward.
Yeah.
There's only so much bandwidth.
Yeah.
Is that bandwidth filled with all the worry, how's this going to work out? Or is that bandwidth like, let me just clear that out and let the truth have its whole way through this conduit that is me?
I was at a church Sunday, and we in this new facility, and the internet was working very slow. I did a speed test. It was like slower than dial-up. Like the power just it couldn't.
Right.
We have all the potential of the internet here, but we were getting pre-dial-up speed. That's the work. When you wonder, why do I have to work on it? Why do I have to keep studying? Why must I be mindful of what my thinking is? It is because you want to be a conduit. You want to be a vessel for this power to come through, because I don't care how you put it. Everybody wants what they want. Like, we want the good desire of our heart. You may be afraid to say it. You may be afraid to have it, but that doesn't mean the desire isn't there.
No, you have to sanctify yourself. Like, people think of sanctify as like, oh, I'm going to wear white gloves to church and not curse. Like, that's not. Sanctify is cleanse the negative thinking out of you as much as you can. It is the practice that you teach throughout the Lenten season. That is sanctifying yourself so that you can be a pure vessel for everything God has for you, so that it can surge through you with such power that things try to stand in your way. It can't.
Yeah.
It dissolves, it burns up, it dissipates, it disintegrates, because you are moving in such a powerful space because you set everything else aside.
Yeah. It's available. And so I think that this is, how are you on juice and time?
Let's get our last point in.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if
not
Gavin,
as good as I'd like to be. So
if Gavin disappears, just know that all is well. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So here's my final clip, because it boils down to the simple truth. And I wanted to point this out because one of the things I enjoy most about our teachers, right? The teachers that we all learn from, is their ability to boil the truth down to very simple nuggets, right? To really, and you'll hear people repeat these different phrases because they're so potent. I think that's the mark of any powerful teacher, but especially in our movement. Here's one of those nuggets.
Our founder would wear it on a medallion around her neck, and it would just say 2 words: God is.
Yes.
Use those 2 words to rebuke the illusions that are showing up in your life. There are no problems. God is. There is no sickness. God is my health. There is no lack. God is my source. There is no loneliness. God is my love. There is nothing that can hold me back. It's just God. So I want you to look at the problem, look at the situation, and quicken, have it come alive in every cell in your body, and just say, God is.
God is. That's a whole word right there.
Whole word.
That's a whole word. And I think that's definitely where, if I say, if you heard nothing else in the entire lesson, in this entire rewind, that God is, as the mind shift, as the cleanser, as the way forward, you won't lose with that. You won't lose with that. God is.
Oh, and it's like I say, it's a trigger for me to, like, you ever seen like the old fashioned movies, and like it's always sexist. It shows the woman hysterical and then somebody like kind of slaps her back. That's me slapping myself back. If it is just like I'm almost in hysterics with doubt and fear and I just can't move, I'm like almost petrified, just declare God is. Over and over and over again until you snap out of that mesmerism that you mentioned, that hypnotic state of worry. It is just an excellent starting point.
Yeah.
Because now you're starting, if this is not like God, the good, this can move. This can disappear. This is temporary. This is an illusion. But just that statement and that knowledge, God is a great trigger to your consciousness to elevate your thinking to the point where now you can work with what's already yours.
So I'm inviting you all to concentrate your power in that direction. And when you are dealing with just life, I wouldn't call them the challenges of life, just dealing with life, right? It's the process of bringing no thing into something. Like that's what we're doing. And we're masters at it. We're designed to do it. And so as you're having that experiences of bringing that no thing into something, there will be opportunities for you to prove that you're capable of doing that, to prove that you're worthy to do that, and that you have the ability to concentrate, to focus the energy, to be a vessel for that good. Right. And it's time for it. Like we need you to be as brilliant as you are. And and you think about it was something she said about the light. I thought I pulled that clip up. It was, it's when you talk about light power, it always, lasers are one of those great metaphors. Our concentration ability is the power of single-mindedness. Concentration intensifies thought the way a laser intensifies light. So this focus, this intensity builds as we begin to continue to practice knowing who we are spiritually, putting on a whole armor of God, as you said earlier in the service.
Yeah, her idea of concentration, it almost sounds a little bit more complicated if you just read it on its surface. It's really just flood your mind with what you need. So that is your focus. And find ways to do it if you can't just get there naturally in the moment. Yes. Then you're concentrating. You're not. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So Gavin, what do you think? You think you might come back again?
I think I will come back again. I think I will see you next month.
Woo, I tell you what, I tried, y'all, to get Gavin on this thing here, and he has been resistant. But
Yeah.
you see all the love, you see all the flow. It's all good.
It's all good. It's
It's
all
all
good.
good.
This was fun. This is amazing.
Good. I'm glad you had
The
a good time.
collective is amazing, and this is great work, and greater works to come.
Yeah, we're just getting started. We're just getting started. I want to thank you all who joined in here live. I know many of you will catch this on YouTube and on Facebook at another time, but just thank you so much. I trust that you heard something that you needed to hear. You know, the sermons come so quick and there's the whole service, and this comes at a perfect time to help unlock, to help unfold, to help you get clear about what you heard, to get clear about the lesson. And I'm grateful for you, Gavin. I'm grateful for your teaching style. I love how you're able to take these concepts and make them very practical, to make them accessible. And I appreciate that. I really do appreciate that about your teaching. Yeah.
Thank you for everything you do.
Thank you. Yeah. And I also want to give myself props, because you all know I do that, because I am getting better at pulling these clips. I want you to know that I cut 3 earlier today. Like, I was like, okay, these 3 got to come out because we don't have 5 hours to be here. But but I want to, so I'm giving myself props in the midst of all this. But yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for those who are live, who've been chatting along with us, Dot and Deborah and Kay and Amy. I see you in there. Kim, I see you in there. Thank you so much for coming in and playing with us. We'll be back next week. We're continuing this series, Unleash Your Inner Power. I encourage you, if you're just catching us for the first time, that we're lesson 5 in, I think this one is. So you can jump right in here. You can go catch up on some of the other lessons. They are available at CU Temple, or YouTube, CU Temple, and you can catch up and have fun with us. So I'm gonna leave with the powerful prayer. God is. God is, and so it is. I'll see you all next week as we rewind. Have a beautiful, beautiful week. Enjoy your holiday if you're here in the States. It's 4th of July week, and enjoy your 4th. Eat real good, and we'll see you next week.